Okay, hello, and welcome to the latest edition of eSchoolnews Conversations with School District Administrators. We call it Getting There, where we talk about strategies that districts are implementing to combat the COVID-19 pandemic and what plans are looking like for the fall. With me today is Sandy Paul. Sandy, how are you?
Hey, doing good, doing
Good.
good. Hope everything's good with you too.
Yeah, right. We're doing well here. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know it's probably a really boring summer for you, right? You know, that summer vacation. Every day I wake up and I'm like, who's going to open and who's going to close and what's going to be hybrid and what's going to be remote. So you guys are up in North Jersey, one of the hardest hit places when this whole thing began. As a fellow New Jerseyan, I'm proud of how we're keeping our RT levels low, and it looks like we can have at least some sort of in-person school year set up.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe to start off, maybe talk a little bit about Union Township, where you are, how many schools, how many kids, and let's get right into it. What's the plan look like today?
Yeah. Okay, so Union Township, we're just west of Newark Airport. So, we're classified as urban, suburban kind of thing. And we have 7,200 kids. We have 10 schools, but I am in charge of 12 buildings. We have 2 administrative buildings. And for right now, the whole idea of what we have at this present time, we have a one-to-one using Chromebooks for every student from grade 6 up to 12th grade. Prior to the pandemic situation, pandemic or COVID-19 situation, what we're having, our 12th grade students were able to take home their devices. So the kids from 9 through 12 took home their Chromebooks, but the 6th through 8th grade students couldn't. They were kept in carts in the homeroom and everything else. So during this situation, when the governor shuts down the schools in the state, we had to figure out a way to get them out there. So we, needless to say, we had to make sure we got all the carts from all the schools. We invited parents to come in. They were able to pick up a device if they wanted to, and that type of thing. And we were able to get that out to for the middle school. But for the elementary levels, we didn't have a one-to-one situation. And because we didn't have a one-to-one situation, whatever was available is what we distributed. So we have one 5th grade building, and that one 5th grade building had 264 Chromebooks. And what we did was we took that 264 plus whatever carts any of the elementary buildings had, and we handed them out to any of the elementary kids that we needed a device. The issue came up where if you had a household of more than one student inside the home, and they could only get and they weren't part of the one-to-one for the 6th through 12th grade, you had to figure out how you were going to get them more devices. So what we tried to do as much as we could was, if you had a household of maybe 4 to 5 kids, we could give you 2 Chromebooks. We would, loan you 2 Chromebooks at the elementary level. But we couldn't really do more than that because we had to make sure we had enough to share to everyone. So after we did that, then at the end of the school year, we had to collect everything back. So we had to organize that again. So we got back as many as we could. And right now we're in the process of cleaning them, trying to get them all set, for redistribution. But as far as I'm quite sure everybody knows about the CARES Act and the grant money that came in, which was associated basically, according to your Title I numbers, we're using a very good portion of them to buy devices for our students from 2nd through 5th grade in order to provide a one-to-one situation. It's still not enough to purchase devices for every kid. So what we've been doing is I'm about to replace the fleets of Chromebooks at the high school because they're about to expire. And what we're doing is Google was good enough to say, we'll give you an extra year for the support. So with that in mind, what we're doing is that whatever the high school fleet has that's still working and that still has the ability to be used for 1 year, and whatever we cannot make up with the CARES Act for the 2nd through 5th, we're going to be using the older Chromebooks from the high school to kind of balance it out as much as possible for the elementary levels. So it's it can be a logistic nightmare trying to figure out what to do, but we're getting there. And right now, the biggest thing is trying to figure out how you're going to get enough Chromebooks for the students. Since all of that situation, both our Commissioner of Education and our governor has given us a document called the Road Back. And part of that entire thing is for us to come up with different plans or scenarios of how we would do both in school and hybrid or completely virtual instructional process for the school district. What the district did, started in June, we actually had developed committees. So we have 4 major committees were developed. This committee is made up of teachers, PTA members, parents, some administrators, some supervisors, stuff like that. And they're primarily, the 4 groups were basically made up of what would be the closing of the school, how that process would have taken place, the reopening of school for September. We have one for social and emotional learning, and then we have a 4th group, and the 4th group is really sanitizing, security, transportation, lunch, stuff like that. That was what the 4th group did. So we had those 4 committees. The committee for the closing of the school district, they're the ones that we followed their protocols of what their suggestion was as the administration. They went into more of the details, but we followed the protocols of what they suggested for closing of the school year, collecting backup devices, collecting textbooks, all that different stuff, how lockers were being cleaned out, stuff like that. The reopening of the school district, tonight, they're going to be presenting their findings and what they're suggesting. The committee split up, one for high school, one for middle school, one for the elementary levels. So because of that, each group is actually going to be presenting about what is the reopening plan, and which includes basically, as I stated before, in-person versus hybrid versus doing something that's completely virtual. And then the social and emotional learning group is going to be presenting this Thursday to our community, letting them know all the different services and different things that they've been talking about. And the sanitation and transportation, I think some of them are going to be presenting tonight, but because the effect of reopening is going to affect transportation, the busing situation and stuff like that. It's also going to affect lunch. So because of that, that's also going to be, some of that will be discussed tonight. So that will be also a presentation that will be done tonight at tonight's board meeting. The biggest thing is to try and figure out how we get devices. And from the road, reading the document, the road back, one of the other issues now we face is now kindergarten and 1st grade, because the kids can't share a device. So even if they're in school, they can't share a device. So, what are you doing with your computer labs now? And then the other part of it is that if we go back to 100% virtual, the governor closed down the district again, how are you going to get K12 devices? So because of that, what I've been trying to work on, both between my budget and been working with our director of alternative funding and, stuff like that. She's actually, she works with our Title I, Title IV, CARES Act. She's been working with all those different things. I've been working with her basically on trying to figure out how we could get devices for some of our schools. Now, we do have, some of our schools are what is called school-wide Title I. So if they're school-wide Title I, then we can get devices and we can just give it out to every single student in that building. If they're not school-wide, the whole idea is trying to figure out what you're going to do with providing devices for certain people versus other people, but then you land up with an equity issue. So because of that, we've come to the conclusion we're not going to do that because you can't supplant, you can only support. So because of that, what we're trying to do is we will just use district funding to try and figure out how to help out with those schools that are not school-wide Title I.
Do you have any bring your own device strategy? I mean, like what kind of percentage, when you talk about your student population, do you have a certain percentage that do have their own gear? And are they allowed to use that gear with the school?
No, we do have a certain percentage that have their own stuff and everything else. But the reason why we haven't encouraged them and we're trying to provide the devices is because we want to make sure we follow all the federal guidelines for CEPA, COPA, FERPA, HIPAA, etc. Every acronym that's out there. Okay. Making sure we follow that guideline. And the other side of it also is that, which is one of the reasons why we're mostly following the idea of using Chromebooks, is because we also have so many other things that we can do. So we use a product called GoGuardian, which does our web filtering and stuff like that. But we also use GoGuardian Teacher. So with GoGuardian Teacher, even though it may be remote learning or even in classroom learning, the idea is the teacher would be able to see what a kid is doing on their actual device in live time, in live streamed. So because of that, now you can actually see students being able to do that. You can actually, make comments, guide students, in a synchronous format. And, we use that type of thing. And that's what we want to be able to do, is to give that. The other part of it is that also for tech support, it's our device. We prefer to be able to supporting our own devices than have to be trying to figure out how to use all these other devices that students may have. But then next thing you know, something might go wrong with it. And then, we don't want to be in that position where a device breaks on us as the IT team and it's not our device, it's a personal device. So that was one of the things. But the issue about providing one-to-one for the entire district and making sure kids have an individual device also goes into the different scenarios that has happened since the remote learning started for the school district. I actually had a situation where a student reached out to one of the other directors via email asking, could she get a hotspot? And we found out, so I wrote back to the young lady saying, sure, you can get a hotspot from us, can you come by at a certain time during the day and everything else. So she wrote back and says, I can't come back, because needless to say, she had a whole story. And her whole story behind it was both her parents are got laid off because of the situation that we're all in. And because of that, she's the actual only person working in our household. So she couldn't pick it up at the time I stipulated, because she either needed to pick it up before work or after work. And the reason why she needed the hotspot was when we all did the surveys at the beginning of this entire pandemic thing, everybody was working. Her parents got laid off. So guess what? They got laid off, so they couldn't afford to pay for the internet anymore. So she needed a hotspot. And then it turned out that she was a senior, kind of like a kid, student. You do what you can. I mean, and Kevin, my biggest thing is I do this for the kids of our school district. The kids of my school district are my why. I look at each one of them as my, they belong to me. I got to make sure I do what I can do, the best of my ability, the best of the resources I have for every child inside my school district. And because of that reason, for that young lady, I made sure I was here like 7 o'clock in the morning, make sure she was able to pick it up before she went to work, different things like that. We all have to be patient. We have to be gracious to people. We have to be understanding. And you have situations like that. One of the things that happened that I didn't anticipate was how many teachers also are in the same situation. They don't have a device, or they don't. Actually, I didn't plan for, and I almost didn't have resources to do it. But I did the best I could, with whatever I had. Unfortunately, some of it was some older laptops that I'm hoping to collect and never use again. what I mean? That kind of thing. But that was one of the things that happened. And then the other part of it too was we had parents that had a device, but it was when, as the governor decided to start to close down different things, the one device that that student had at home was the one device that the parent needed to use
For
for.
work.
So you land up in these different type of situations. So for me personally, my biggest thing is, my ultimate goal is to make sure every student has a device K through 12th grade. Because that way I know that whatever situation they may be placed with at home, whether or not they actually have their own personal device, it's not a device that they're taking away from another sibling that may be in college or is working, or their own parents. But it's also a device that we know that we kind of have some control over. I'm not saying we have complete control, but we have some control over. Also, that we can make sure that it has a web filtering system that makes us compliant with the federal guidelines and state guidelines. And also being able to provide hotspots or access, internet access wherever we could, so that parents, but also having the guidelines according to the state and federal government about filtering and that type of thing for privacy and, you know, cybersecurity, that type of thing. So
Right. The cybersecurity seems to be a real big issue, especially now in this remote learning environment, right? Because just to what you're
yes.
saying is that if you have devices that are, you know, through phones or off the record, that's an open window for ransomware attacks or other sort of malware attacks.
Right. And, you know, it's like we're a Google school district. So a lot of our stuff is being filtered via Google, but it's not the only filter we have. We also use, we're a Cisco shop. So I'll say that up front. But because we're a Cisco shop, one of the things we have is we also have an additional filtering system called Umbrella. So, you know, our email actually goes through our Umbrella system before it even hits Google. And then once it hits Google, then, you know, we get notifications from Google if something is, you know, they have high, medium, low, you know, threats and stuff like that. Besides that, then the other thing that we also have is I have Cisco CloudLock, which actually checks the Google Docs, making sure about what's on a document that's coming through our Google system. And then and then besides that also, okay, because unfortunately, these ransomware, you know, hackers and stuff like that, they think of all sorts of ways to try and figure out how to get through your system. So because of that, you know, we actually have trainings that we do with staff to make sure that they understand, staff and students making sure they understand, you know, what is, you know, their privacy, also understanding what is cyberbullying, also understanding that what information can be put out on the web, what information can't be put out on the web. So we do in-house training that's done, you know, just like most school districts have to do bloodborne pathogens kind of thing. We do the same kind of type of training. Everybody signs off stating that they've done the training, that type of thing. We're looking actually doing more training on that type of thing so that, you know, we're looking into KnowBe4 so that we can look at phishing attacks or whatever it is that they're trying to get through. But a service that the state of New Jersey has is something called NJ Kick, which is NJCCIC, which is associated with the MS-ISAC, which is MSISAC. Okay, all of these are acronyms and everything else. I can't tell you off the top of my head what they mean, but it's also a cyber security type of systems. They're a monitoring system. One is multi-state. The New Jersey Kick is actually from the state of New Jersey, and we are members of it. It's a free membership for school districts, and we belong to them. And what they do, they send out notifications letting you know that certain things may be outside there, that there is a possibility of your information getting on the dark web. Like recently, there was a report sent out saying that certain townships, their information was on the dark web and everything else. So I got notification. So I notified my town, right? We found out that there might have been some information from our system that was actually associated with our school district, and actually MS-ISAC and NJ Kick kind of helped us to have it removed from the dark web. And these are services that are free. So we were able to get some of these services that we don't have to pay for. But I try to always look at cybersecurity in that it has to be layered, and you have to, and especially since we are so cloud-based in our school district infrastructure, I try to make sure that we are covered in that aspect also. So it's not a matter that, okay, we have stuff in the cloud and it's in the cloud, so therefore we have redundancy. We actually have disaster recovery and stuff like that. It's making sure the cloud is also covered, making sure that part of it is also covered under our cybersecurity. So we have different things that we're using. Somebody may think I am overthinking it or I have more than I need, but I would rather not. I know I can't be covered 100%. There's no such thing as being covered 100%. But if I can get as close as possible to 100%, I would rather have the resources available so I can get as close as possible to it.
Right. Now, with all these new strategies, new committees, new ways of thinking about your device management, do you foresee this, if we ever go back to normal, whatever that means, will your strategies stay the same? Do you think you'll use some of them? Do you think you'll use all of them? Like, is it this point where you're truly going to be one-to-one from here on out?
Yes, that is my plan. My plan is to make sure I'm one-to-one from here on out, and making sure I even use all the resources that I have now also at the same time. The reason being is that we never know what might happen in the future. Okay, it's like Adam File always talks about the new normal. So this is going to be our new normal, more or less. And the thing is that nobody knows. It's like when the N1H1 came to the United States and everybody was talking about, having a pandemic plan and everything else. I remember in my previous school district, we had developed a pandemic plan, but we had developed a plan for basically, I would say, between 3 to 4 weeks. Not that we expected anything to be where we are months on end outside of the school district. You know what I mean? Now, the plan came in kind of basically good, because once we had Hurricane Sandy, we kind of had an idea of how to recover from it because it was a plan. But at the same time, I don't think anybody planned that we would be, March, April, May, June, 4 months basically out of school.
Right.
I don't think anybody planned it. So because of that, I think we are all in a situation that now that we are faced with this new normal, then turning back, I don't think is ever going to happen. But the other part of it is that none of us know when it's going to happen again. I think it's not a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when something is going to happen in the future. Okay, I'm not a futurist. I can't predict anything, but I'm just a lowly educator, just trying to help out my kids and my community as much as I can. I'm not that far, I'm not that high up on any totem pole anywhere when it comes to power, resources or anything like that.
Yeah.
Do the best I can for the students that I have in my community. And they're the main reasons why I do it. I'm quite sure everybody can hear the passion and the why I try to do what I do. And it's because to me, we need to definitely prepare our kids for the future. And it's like the future is basically working online. We're in an information age. We're no longer making that many widgets. We may be making widgets, but we're making widgets associated with data. And data are ones and zeros, and it's information. And we got to prepare kids for those type of skill set. And I think this is something that's going to be good for the future for them.
Yeah, I mean, many of the conversations I've been having, there's been this undercurrent. It's like, this is what we've been talking about for 10 years. I mean, these are the things.
Yeah, exactly.
And all it took was a global pandemic to make it happen, right?
Yeah, because I've been saying this forever, because in 2007, I completed one of my master's degrees completely online. And one of the the degree I completed and everything else, I remember one of my professors saying to me, you should do your doctorate. You should do your doctorate. And I was like, I had enough of studying at the time. So, and I had proposed something to him, and I proposed to him saying, wouldn't it be interesting if we had K12 completely online? And I actually saved the email. I actually have that email. When he wrote back to me and he said to me, that would be a fantastic dissertation. You should do that. Well, needless to say, in 2007 to now, 13 years later, that's what we're doing. Yeah. It's a complete K12 situation where we're completely doing things online. And that's basically what, yes, maybe I had an idea of what we were going to do and the research I was looking at maybe from 2007. It's nothing compared to what we have now because technology has changed so much. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty much where we are today. I mean, if we go back to virtual school for the entire school district in September, that's what I'm looking at. I'm going to be putting Union Township School District in a K12 online educational system.
Well, it sounds like you have the infrastructure to support it and the devices, juggling the devices.
Juggling the devices is going to be interesting because that's where I'm trying to, finding the resources that I need for that. But then the other part of it too also is the instructional side.
Yeah.
You can't, having a device is one thing, but making sure you have the instructional side. So, you're looking at single sign-on, you're looking at, okay, are you doing, all the different resources out there, the textbook that's, online, or are you looking at Discovery Education, Newsella, Edpuzzle, Seesaw, you name it, Wakelet, whatever it is. These are just some I named. Some of those I just named are not the stuff that we're even using in our school district, but these are things I know other schools are. And, making sure that you actually have it in one place, one place where everybody can get to it. But the instructional process has to continue. We still have to educate the kids. So, right. Yeah.
Right. Well, Sandy, thank you so much for your time. I know you're really busy, but I really do believe that your insights are going to help the eSchool community as everyone is trying to figure out
yeah.
what to do next. So thanks again, and thanks everybody for watching and for reading, and we'll see you for the next one.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for thinking of me.
Okay.
All right.